Hello, this is Robert Barrick, and I am making this video in order to discuss the misuse and exploitation of a surveillance drone and other grave misconduct perpetrated by officers of the Indianapolis Police Department. In the spirit of full disclosure, I do want to share that I am under scrutiny. I've been posting these videos for the last 10 months now, kind of describing what I am facing in relation to the misconduct, dirty deeds, and illegitimate tactics of these officers. But again, I am under scrutiny by the police department. The major out of the laundry list of false and distorted accusations that are being levied against me, I think the two most stringent ones are that I am a thief, which is categorically, unequivocally false, and springing from that false accusation that I represent some sort of a threat. And that is insofar as I know the people who incited the police against me with these false accusations. These people, this small group of, basically made up of mostly a couple of former employers, they are hyper biased against me because I had threatened to sue them for providing false references. And over the course of a couple of years, even longer than that, this snowballed into the point where these dishonest individuals, in order to immunize themselves from litigation, incited the police against me. So I wanted to be upfront about that. There's an old saying that I found online once that said something along the lines of regarding slander. Slander is like swatting a wasp. If you can't kill it the first time, it's better not to bother it at all. Well, that has proven enormously true. When I first attempted to stop this wrongful slander, I wasn't able to nip it in the bud then and there. And so it has haunted me from job to job to job until, as I said, these vicious past employers trying to protect themselves from litigation have incited the police against me. But I don't want to get too far into that because, as I said, the purpose of this video is to discuss how the Indianapolis Police Department have been misusing the drone that was provided to them by the Department of Homeland Security. There's been a lot of information coming to us regarding drones over the past year as they've been sort of rolling out across the nation. According to the FAA, within the next decade there will be 30,000 of these drones that are in the domestic skies above us. There is no differentiation about how many are surveillance drones versus how many are commercial for commercial use. But the FBI, just a couple of years ago, I believe it was the director of the FBI disclosed to a congressional committee that in fact the FBI have been using these surveillance drones for quite some time. You can Google that, and in fact most of the information that I'm going to be providing to you, you can also Google as well, and I encourage you to do so. In this, the information that we've been receiving about drones, it's been just how wonderful they are, how they're going to assist us and solve problems. From a public perspective, they've talked about government agencies using them. For example, we've heard a lot about search and rescue. And on the commercial side, they've talked about it being used for example, to bring grandma her heart medication, deliver it to her door from the pharmacy. And those are wonderful aspects of this new technology, but there is a dark side, and that's kind of what I want to talk about today. there appears to be, and you can research this as well, according to some news articles, the Department of Homeland Security has an armada of these surveillance drones. And they also have some kind of a program, and I won't say it's secret, but it isn't common knowledge that they are distributing these to local law enforcement agencies across the nation. In Indianapolis, I believe they have 2 such surveillance drones. What is supposed to be more the secret side of it is the nature and technological advancement of the particular surveillance sensors that are equipped on these drones, which are oh my gosh, aerial surveillance systems. That's not what the acronym is. I can't think of the acronym at the moment, but there's an acronym for drones, but they're more commonly known as, and they are equipped with several different kinds of sensors. And what I want to talk about briefly are the nature of these sensors. There are, from my experience, having been basically victimized for the past 12 months by police officers operating one of these drones to surveil me, is that it has up to 9 different types of sensors. The first one is what's referred to as a see-through-the-wall telescope. It's a high-power telescope that actually has the capacity to see through walls and actually surveil you inside of your home or other locations, and facial expression clearly, where they can actually make out, whether you're smiling or frowning or, as I said, facial expression clear. So the quality and caliber of the see-through-the-wall technology is very advanced. The second one, and I'll talk more about these in a moment, I just want to go through the list of 9 first. The second one is an eavesdropping device, sensor, that is very much like having your whole house bugged. The third sensor is an eye and gaze tracker. The fourth device is a thermal and infrared telescope, which I guess we're most familiar with. One of the earlier pieces of that kind of equipment that has been around for a while. The fifth one is what's referred to as an ultrasonic detection device, and I want to talk most about that one in a couple of minutes. The sixth one is actually referred to as a weapon, and it is called a directed energy weapon. The seventh is a chemical dispersion sensor, and that's getting a little spooky. I believe it's euphemistically referred to or used for crowd control, or is intended for the purpose of crowd control. The eighth and ninth one are very sort of high-tech and Star Wars-y, insofar as one is a brain reader. And as I said, you can Google this information. You don't have to take my word for it. The brain reader is basically a sensor that collects brain waves connected to a computer that can translate them into images. And in fact, you can put that in there as brainwave translator or image translator. There is actually an institute at Berkeley, UC Berkeley, known as Gallant, the Gallant Lab, and you can Google them. They are one of the institutes that have been researching this device. There's another one in Japan, I believe, and then a third one in Europe. I don't know who else might be working on this technology, but what's interesting about it is that all the articles that you look up are primarily a year and a half to 2.5 years old. After that point, it's silent, as though this technology ceased to be investigated after 2 years ago, which is unlikely. what is more likely, and what I'm explaining here, is that it is part of, the government is now using it as part of what is on these surveillance drones. And then the ninth sensor is what is referred to, it's kind of a super eavesdropping sensor, where it actually can collect information from the larynx. And a little bit more of an explanation about that is we have an internal monologue that will say things, that we're thinking things. You know, you're at a party, you see an ex-girlfriend or an ex-boyfriend, and you go, oh God, I hope I don't, you know, I hope he doesn't see me, or I hope she doesn't see me. And you say that to yourself, you're thinking it to yourself, or so you believe. In reality, it turns out that you're not just thinking that, it's actually being formulated in your larynx. And that information that can be intercepted now by this kind of super eavesdropping equipment, where they can just turn up the volume and they know what you have said in your internal monologue. So basically, those two devices, the brain reader and internal monologue interceptor, eavesdropping interceptor, are allow them to basically read people's thoughts. And I know that sounds kind of far-fetched, but again, I encourage you to Google research and see that that particularly the brain reader is a very real piece of technology that's out there. The internal monologue, the larynx eavesdropping interceptor is a less, there's far less information about that. But to go back over them again, it's the see-through-the-wall telescope with video capability, regular sort of eavesdropping equipment, the thermal infrared technology, the ultrasonic detection sensor, the directed energy weapon, the chemical dispersion sensor, the brain reader, and the larynx internal monologue eavesdropping device. Now the first one, as I said, the see-through-the-wall technology, which is very advanced because they can see through the wall well enough to see facial expressions. So this device is aerial. It is a tracking device, and it can hear and watch everything that the person that it's targeted to watch can see or that does or says. So it's not exclusively in the home, although that is one of the places that it could be utilized. If it's tracking you to the supermarket, it can watch and listen to you while you're in the supermarket. It can do so in the doctor's office. It can do so in the confessional. It can do so at the therapist's office. It can do so at the bar. It can do so if you're cheating on your husband or wife. They can watch you. So these devices are very technologically advanced, and they raise questions, serious questions, in regards to constitutional protections. And at present, there are no specific laws that deal with surveillance drones with these capabilities, and there have been no court decisions. This is something that is just, being rolled out into the nation. Basically, the nation, the domestic skies are being weaponized. And before I get to that, I just want to finish what I was discussing about the other sensors. With the eavesdropping sensor, it's very much like mass bugging. So it can eavesdrop when you're in your kitchen. And so when you leave your kitchen and go into your living room, it can eavesdrop on whatever conversations that you're having, whether it's by telephone or in person. So basically it's like having electronic bugs throughout your entire home, or actually wherever you go. And what is disturbing about that is that it also can circumvent wiretapping laws. So if law enforcement seeks to wiretap or to bug someone's home, traditionally, the way that they would do it, they know there are specific laws of what they can and cannot do. Well, with this device, they can circumvent these laws. And when I say that there are no laws specifically out there for this device, there are some states that have sort of put through legislation that's kind of a boilerplate, where it just mimics other sort of search warrant requirements. So it does require a warrant in many states, not every state, but in many states. So law enforcement has to take information to a judge and determine whether that is, if there is probable cause or not. But otherwise, there are no specific protections that deal with the abuse of the device, protecting the public, protecting the rights to privacy, because this device can obliterate privacy because of the advanced technology that it has, where it can literally see and hear you everywhere. And it can see what you're reading, it can see what you're writing, it can see you in the bathroom, it can see you anywhere in the bedroom, it can see you and hear you wherever it tracks you. So there are serious questions regarding constitutionality regarding this device. And that is one of the reasons that the sensors, the technology of these sensors is, they want to keep it under wraps. The eye and gaze tracker, I understand that that's even in some video players or video game machines. Basically, if you're driving down the road and you see, a cute blonde there on your at the corner, and you look at them, if you're being tracked by this device, the officers that are operating it are able to pinpoint where you're looking. That's kind of spooky to know that law enforcement can so intrude in your life and on your privacy that they can actually mimic, they can actually pinpoint your gaze. I mean, that's pretty intrusive. The next sensor, the infrared and thermal telescope, that I guess we know most about that because it's been around longer than any of them, and I think it's less popular than it used to be as in its use because of the see-through-the-wall technology. The next sensor is the ultrasonic detection sensor, and that is basically similar to the Navy's sonar equipment, where the Navy sends down a sound wave into the ocean, and then it bounces off of a submarine, and then they get the location of the submarine. Well, similarly, this device is shot at a person, and you can actually feel it when it is discharged at you. What it does is it's sending an ultrasound, and then it's collecting. Its purpose is to see through your clothing to see whether you're carrying weapons of some kind. And the one on the drone is so advanced, I understand, that it can actually see into the body and determine whether someone is carrying contraband, for example, if they're carrying drugs in their stomach. But mainly the purpose, there are handheld devices that have been around for a little while, and those are referred to by the acronym WAND, W-A-N-D-D. And that stands for Weapons and Non-Permitted Device Detectors. And that's what they are, and again, you can Google that and learn a little bit more about these ultrasonic detection devices. And this is the one that I'm going to speak to in just a moment in more detail, because this is the one that these officers, the operators of the drone, have exploited the most and misused the most, and have actually learned how to convert it into a weapon. The next device is actually called a weapon. It is a directed energy weapon. And again, Google directed energy weapon. It has the power to actually, when it's discharged, to feel like it's a push, where it can actually push an individual. My experience with the use of that device has been sort of on a low power setting, where they've actually sort of pushed my arm off of a a chair arm. We've all had that happen where we're leaning on our arm and slips off. You know what that is. Well, this directed energy weapon being used by what I would think would be these kind of bored officers that are just watching and operating this device. Let's try out our new little toys. Shoots it in a low power mode to discharge it at my elbow, and that's not the only time that they've used it either. They've also used it when I've been lying down to actually shift my body. My understanding is that the use of this device is more towards stopping someone who is fleeing perhaps from the scene of a crime where it could actually knock you down, or on its higher power setting, it can actually, my understanding is, stop a car. So if there is some kind of a chase occurring, or that the police, instead of chasing a car, they can just stop it in its tracks with this directed energy weapon. The next device is where we're getting a little more scary, although those last two are as well, and that is the chemical dispersion sensor. And my understanding, the way that I've experienced that over the year that these officers have been abusing this device in a sort of wrongful persecution against me, is that I noticed just over the last 3 months these smells. And one in particular, not very long ago, was the smell of burning bacon. And I sort of Googled that. I got up and, I kind of sniffed around to see whether, there was any, there was any burning bacon anywhere. And so obviously there wasn't. This was at night, and I was laying down, and, I was sniffing around, where's that coming from? Where's that coming from? But I decided to Google it. What chemicals might smell like burnt bacon? And and I found that ammonia in some cases do, particularly ammonia that's used in stink bombs. And as I said, part of the media information that you can look up is that this device can be used euphemistically for crowd control, which I believe that it actually more realistically could be applied to law enforcement stopping a rally or a picket or some kind of a demonstration that they didn't like. So it gets a little scary when we're talking about interfering with with the people's right to peaceably assemble. I've already discussed the next two in a little bit more detail, which was the brain reader and the larynx interceptor, so I won't go into that any further. So that's sort of the 9 sensors that I've been able to ascertain that the Indianapolis Police Department's drones have are equipped with. Whether they're interchangeable, so you can take out one sensor to add another one, sort of depending on what, I guess, your use for the device is. And that's one of the big problems of this device, is that there is no legislation out there, there's no protection, there's no protection for privacy, there's no protection against the misuse of it, which is what I'm discussing, and there's no penalty at present for misuse. And unlike wiretapping on a telephone or a cell phone, or attaching a GPS device to an automobile to track someone, those are passive devices where it's collecting the data, but there isn't a person that actually is manning those devices 24/7, unless they're actually reading the device to see where you're going. But the data is being done, it's a passive activity. Whereas the operation of the drone and the operation